My name's Jeff Waters. I'm a journalist for the ABC. I'm married with 2 children and I'm 44 years old. I had a massive cardiac arrest in February 2010 and came without warning. I had about a minute and a half, 2 minutes warning before I dropped dead. I'm a hobby cook, and I'd been cooking a big banquet basically for friends on a very hot February night, and I'd consumed about a bottle of red, and I'd just gotten into bed with my wife, about, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and I felt nauseous. I felt like throwing up very, very quickly, spontaneously, and I rushed into the bathroom and was sick. I assumed it was the wine, though that was very uncharacteristic of me to only drink a bottle and throw up. But I went straight into the bathroom and threw up, and came back to the wife and said I was experiencing some pain in my chest. And I was very lucky, she's a GP, she's a doctor. So she said to me, well, you just threw up and you've got pain in the chest. What else is happening? And I said, well, I feel a bit sort of breathless and a bit sort of clammy, a bit sweaty. And she instantly became alarmed and I didn't really know why at that stage. I then said to her, no, I'm feeling okay now, let's just go to sleep. So I lay down again, and within about 30 seconds sat upright, bolt upright, and said, no, this pain is getting much worse across my chest and it's now going down my left arm. So Fiona, my wife, jumped up and raced into the living room to grab the phone and started calling an ambulance, and came back into the bedroom saying, I'm calling an ambulance. I can't remember this bit exactly. And I started telling her off. Not, angrily, but started saying, don't be ridiculous. Why are you calling an ambulance? I can't get an ambulance. We've got 2 kids. It's the middle of the night. What are we going to do with the kids? I'm not going to go to hospital just for a panic attack. And she said, well, you don't have panic attacks. And I said, well, actually, yes, you're right. And just as she was giving our address to the ambulance, a sort of black curtain descended from top to bottom. And I thought I was fainting. I still didn't at that stage believe I was having a heart attack. And so I made a joke. I said, something like, here I go, darling, goodbye, which she thought was a premonition of my death, but I wasn't that smart. And I dropped dead, and instantly apparently looked grey and dead for all the world, and had no heartbeat. So Fiona started, threw the phone down. Thankfully, I'd already given our address, and started CPR. 7 minutes after I blacked out, the ambulance arrived, the paramedics. There were 2 ambulances. The fire brigade showed up, and the fireys were giving me CPR and took over the CPR while the paramedics shocked me with the defibrillator about 30 times. They finally, after about just over half an hour, got enough heartbeat to take me to hospital, which was very lucky. I was put on what's called a 12-lead ECG, which is a new thing, so that I was diagnosed by the doctors while I was still in the ambulance on the way to hospital, remotely, which is pretty impressive, so that they could crash call all the cardiologists and the doctors at Monash Hospital, and they rushed into the hospital so that they could do a procedure on me. Unfortunately, I died again in the emergency ward, and they had to shock me again and get me going again. They did just long enough to get me into what's called the cath lab, where they inserted through my groin a line up into my artery in my heart to inflate a small balloon, which cleared the blockage, and then they inserted a stent. Now that normally takes a procedure that normally takes about half an hour, 45 minutes, but because I kept dying, and then coming back, that took about 5 hours. They eventually got me going, and then they kept my body very cold, which is also a new thing, which was developed only a few years ago in Melbourne. and has now been followed up around the world, so as to help my internal organs and my brain recover from the shock and to take the weight off my heart. And that helped me have a fantastic recovery in that I didn't have any real brain damage or any, long term. Well, I do have long term heart damage, but not as bad as it would have been. I woke up about 2 days or 2.5 days later. They slowly brought me around, and my wife was there, and she was the one that told me that I'd had a heart attack, but I didn't quite believe it and kept disagreeing with her. But then again, I was heavily sedated, and I had the memory of a goldfish. I kept repeating the question, where am I, what's going on, which was very distressing for her, because at that stage they didn't know if I was going to wake up with the brain of a potato or not, and it was very likely that I was going to be majorly brain damaged, and so she saw this, and there was a good chance that was what I was going to be like for the rest of my life. But thankfully the next day I'd improved, and then the following day I'd improved more than that. So I don't have any memory of what was going on for probably about 4 days, and then was confronted with the fact that here I was, the fellow that the ABC often sends to the most remote locations, foreign correspondent for years, completely incapacitated for the first time in my life, in a hospital bed, and facing, the possibility of major debilitation for the rest of my life. Took about 3 months off work to very, very slowly recover, and slowly build my strength back up. I went through the rehabilitation process at a nearby hospital, which was excellent, where they taught me to exercise, and I went to counselling about how to deal with things, psychologically, how to reorganise my life so that I didn't work at 1,000,000 miles an hour, which I tend to do, firing, all 12 cylinders all the time. And the exercise program that's one of the big changes in my life, is that although I used to exercise a bit, I now exercise a hell of a lot. 3 or 4 months after the event, I was also diagnosed with post-traumatic stress as a result of basically the involuntary part of my brain telling me that if I crossed a road, even an empty road, I was about to die, and would send huge bursts of stress hormones through my body, and which you can't rationalise with. And that also changed my life, and is something that I'm still coping with, and something that I have to learn to beat. I was back at work part-time. I went back to work part-time, and they kind of ramped it up under the guidance of the occupational therapist. My employer was brilliant, allowing me to do this. And I was back at work part-time probably within about 3.5 months, and back at work full-time within 5 months. And I'm still dealing with fatigue. I'm and having to pace myself a lot more than I used to, and trying not to work as hard, I suppose. I ride a push bike for half an hour at lunchtime at work, and then half an hour of an evening, or a bit more if an hour if I can't do the lunchtime ride. And I do weights 2 or 3 times a week at a gym, which is a vast difference. I also and the biggest thing that I've that I've not enjoyed, really, I mean, the exercise has turned into something I quite like, but the thing I don't enjoy is that I don't drink at all 4 days a week, and then when I do drink those 3 other nights, I'm only supposed to have 2 beers or 2 glasses of wine, which is a vast departure from what I used to drink. Where it really is evident that it has affected people is mainly with male friends that are my age, many of whom have cut down their drinking, cut down their smoking, and started exercising every day because of the shock. But some are certainly, thinking about their own responsibility to their families, and they've told me about this, and that they feel that they should exercise more in particular. When I was at home, I always had this thing where I felt like I needed to be doing something for the family, uh, fixing up the house, doing, stuff for the family, rather than spending quality time with them. So I've rearranged those priorities. So I'm doing less, building fences and fixing up the house, and more actual, time spent with the children and my wife. And I clearly needed to learn how to relax and actually have downtime, actually waste time, which is something I never did, and I now enjoy a great deal. Just mucking around with the kids or whatever. And I also picked up the guitar, something that I hadn't done in years, and found that as a great negative stress, to just lose yourself for hours on end playing the guitar. The thing that I'd like people to realise the most is that this can happen to anybody. I had no family history. I do not have high blood pressure. I did not have high cholesterol. I don't have diabetes. I have no. I had only smoked a bit, and from time to time in my previous years, I hadn't smoked a great deal, but I did a bit, but not a great deal. It can happen at any time to anybody. This was the only piece of plaque in my heart, and it burst. So the thing that people, I think, have to recognise is that they need to learn the warning signs with all of the stress that goes on, and all of the work and all of the money hassles and everything like that. Just take time to be simple and quiet, and enjoy your life and relax, because nobody really can tell you how to deal with your own stress except yourself. And the only way to do it, I reckon, is just be kind to yourself and give yourself the time to rest. My name's Jeff Waters. I'm a 44-year-old journalist. I work for the ABC. I've got a wife and 2 kids. And earlier this year, I had a massive cardiac arrest, and drifted in and out of death for about an hour before they finally got me going. I went home from that and felt fantastic as far as my recovery was concerned. Apart from about 3 or 4 months, or no, would have been about 3 months after the event, my doctors ordered me back to the emergency department when they thought I was having another heart attack. It turned out that I wasn't having a heart attack, but it was completely manufactured by my brain, and that I was suffering post-traumatic stress. I was diagnosed subsequently with post-traumatic stress, which was a remarkable thing, I have to say. Completely involuntary things started to happen, apparently caused by a very small and very primitive part of the brain called the amygdala, which is on the top of the spine, and which is the thing that releases what's called the fight or flee mechanism, the stress hormones that helps animals survive. We share this with lizards and lower animals, and because it's so primitive, it doesn't talk to the rest of your brain. You can't rationalize with it. So at the most ridiculous times and for the most ridiculous reasons, this thing would release massive bursts of stress hormones into my body, and still does from time to time, though it's lessening, as if I was driving my car down a freeway and there was a semi about to hit me head on. I've gone on to medication, an anti-anxiety drug, which is apparently the same as an anti-depression drug. I've never really suffered from depression, but that's helped a great deal, and I've been going through a series of steps to lessen it, basically. I found, first of all, the best thing was exercise. There was something about not pushing myself too much because I've, recovering from a heart attack, but there was something about exercising and knowing that, well, if I can survive a 10-kilometre bike ride, then I can survive walking down the street or going to work. If I can do weights for an hour at the gym and push my body, that extra bit, then my normal life, I shouldn't suffer from anxiety because I know that I can survive the gym. So that kind of helped a lot. I went to a special kind of psychiatrist called a cognitive behavioural therapist who doesn't give a damn about what happened in your childhood and doesn't want you to lie on a couch and, do all of that, but actually gives you exercises to help you overcome what you're going through now as opposed to fix up what happened back there in the past. So things like when I stop at the traffic lights now and I ride a motor scooter, but with a full face helmet, thankfully, that when I stop at a red light, I calmly smile to myself. And that just releases endorphins, which actually overcome anxiety. Things like imagining at times where I'm feeling anxious, imagining my kids and hugging my kids. You can change the way you think by your own thoughts. So to train yourself to think positively, to smile, to make your body feel like it's happy, or the stance it should take when it is happy actually makes you happy. So I've been very, very studiously going through these exercises, as well as the medication, which hopefully I'll be off soon, and it's helped a great deal.